There's a chance that we could actually start going up tomorrow, but it's not going to be a massive run up. It's going to be short lived a little bit, and I'll explain why. Hi, welcome to Wealthy Mindset. My name is Oliver. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you're having a great day like always. And in today's video, I'm going to cover GameStop starting from April 14th and moving forward into the future, roughly about a week and a half. I'm going to analyze the graph to give you the lows and highs, plus provide a little bit of fundamentals, and I'm going to talk about the shorted shares in terms of information. Recently got updated, so I think that will be helpful. Now, quick disclaimer before I begin. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a professional. And everything I do share with you is just my opinion. It is not advice. So please do not buy or sell based off the information I give you or the opinions I do form. Please do your own due diligence and research before buying and selling. Now, if we get into the graph, there's a chance that we could actually start going up tomorrow, but it's not going to be a massive run up. It's going to be short lived a little bit, and I'll explain why. We closed at $140.99 on April 13th. The fundamentals I was going to talk about was that GameStop's looking for a new CEO. And the reason why that's beneficial is they're trying to find a new CEO that is more versed into the e-commerce side to make their online presence more well-known versus the competitors, because versus the competitors, they don't really necessarily stand out in the online world of gaming kind of stuff. So that is a benefit. Now, if you saw my last video, it's going to be linked up here. I talked about upward trend support lines, all that stuff, and why we're heading lower. But before we do, I think we're going to head up higher and essentially have this. So like a quick summary, I guess, is go like this, and then the next few trading days go like this, and then bounce back up. And I'm hoping this to happen. But disregard this portion right now because this has to be a little bit assessed. But I'm going to explain, like always, I cover the upside and downside because nobody knows for sure. And for all we know, some massive news could come out the next few days or something like that. And it could go back catabolic to the upside, or it could go catabolic to the downside. So I'm going to explain everything. So in the meantime, I'm saying so a lot, but either way, we have an upward trend support line dating back since September 2020. But the one I want to show the most is December 2020 right here. And I showed both in my last video, but you can see right here, went up, bounced off the December support line, went up to the upside, down to the support line, back up to the upside, and then came back down, bounced off the support, went back up to the upside, and formed a downward trend resistance line, came back down, and I'm anticipating it to come back down here and then bounce off to the upside like I showed earlier. Now, before it does that, that cycle right now we just saw and I went over with is the same thing is happening in like a mini cycle right here. So we have the downward trend resistance line that I showed in the last video right about here. You could see touch points if I zoomed in, but either way you could clearly see like it kept us down right here, downward trend resistance line. Then we have an upward trend support line right here that I did not show in the last video, but if I zoom in, it acted as resistance here. I'll show, because this one I didn't show in the last video, so I'll show it here. Downward trend resistance line right here, and then two false breakouts right here, and then access support right here, access support right here at this point, not the second point but the first point, and then access support right here. One false breakout though. Now false breakouts to the upside I don't really worry about too much because it's actually better, breaks the resistance, so that's good. False breakouts to the downside from support levels I don't like, because then it means the support level is technically tampered with and it's fragile moving forward. But either way, I'm going to explain why I believe we're going to go to the upside. So we come down, bounce off the support level, go back up, in essence hit the resistance level and come back down, bounce off the support level, go back up, bounce down from resistance, and then come back down to the support. And I'm anticipating a bounce up to the upside given the pattern that I mentioned, and also given two more things. So we have a downward trend resistance line right here that we broke, so that's a good sign. You usually get a mini run up from that, or if it's a massive downward trend resistance line, you get a pretty good run up from that. But this one, given it's a small one dating back since April 8th, I don't expect a massive one, and especially given the location where it's at, there's a lot of resistance right about here, and I'm going to explain why. Plus, another positive is the MAC line is in the positive in terms of momentum, so that's good. That's awesome stuff. Now, a scenario that could happen is if you don't think this whole entire pattern that I'm mentioning is significant, then you could just expect tomorrow is going to be another like dull day hypothetically, where it goes up to the upside, hits resistance at, it could hit resistance between 145 and 147, but I'm anticipating it to hit at the moving average, which is about, I guess, 145, 146, so it doesn't matter anyway. Hit moving average resistance, come back down, and hug the upward trend support line for the rest of the day, which would be roughly about, when I measured it, between $142, $143 price point. I think it was more 142 though. So that is one scenario. And then if you think it's going to go more to the upside, which I think, essentially, just to show you, I think this is what's going to happen. So it's going to go to the upside tomorrow, continue on the channel like I mentioned, right about here, back and forth, so up, down, up, and then I think it's going to come back, so go up, then come back down and break maybe the support, who knows, hopefully it holds and goes to the upside, but then I'm anticipating to bounce off this upward trend support line that I mentioned since December. And in case if you're a new viewer, I'm going to quickly cover right now. I covered way more in the other video that I linked, like my last video for GameStop, but this upward trend support line, given this cycle up, down, bouncing back and forth, I'm anticipating it to come back down to bounce off to go to the upside, right? So right about here to the upside. And for the people who, like viewers who have seen the video, I'm going to go back to the other stuff right now, but before I do, so essentially that's what's going to happen for the new viewers. And the reason why I include September and December, even though September support level has been broken a bunch of times, is because in case of December upward trend support line breaks, then I'm banking on September to hold us through. So it doesn't have to break through dramatically. It could just go consolidate for a while in December and then come back down to September and then hopefully bounce up at one point. No guarantees. It could break through these support levels. Doesn't have to hold through, but I'm hoping it does. Now back to this. So the reason why I think it's going to go up to the upside, but not dramatic though, is because we have resistance levels though at, like I stated, 140, roughly around $145 price point. Also the 147. This downward trend support line is more support. It's not going to act as resistance to my knowledge. And then it's going to hit 150, like resistance between 150 to 157. Quite a bit of resistance at the 155 to 157 price point. There's resistance at this moving average right here at 161. I'm expecting, like, 157 is pretty strong, so there might be an issue where we might spike up past 157, and I think we will because we're going to hit this downward trend resistance line. So it depends on when we hit it. So if we hit it right about here, we're going to hit probably $164 price point. If we hit it later in the day, we might hit 160, maybe just back test just below 160, not break 160, or maybe hit 161. But essentially, there'll be a like it will hit one of these levels and then come back down. That's what I'm expecting. And if you think it's going to essentially, like I stated here, hug this upward trend support line, but instead go back up and then like hover around here and then somewhat like go back and forth, up and down, hug this downward trend resistance line, then you're expecting to close right about, where is it, right about here, sorry about that, around 155. I think when I measured it was like 157, but I think 155 is, to be fair, I guess, somewhere between 155 157, close at the end of the day. And if you think the support line, like for example, another play is it goes to the upside and then hits the resistance levels between let's say 153 157, comes back down and hugs the support level right here, and then you're closing at 155. When I measured it, I guess 146 145, somewhere around there. Now the thing is though, I covered this a little bit in my last video, but in case if you think it's going to go past all these levels, catabolic, and just disregard all these resistance levels, which hopefully it does, but I don't think it's possible for tomorrow. It might be the next trading day, but in case if you think it's going to happen, then you would have to also pass the $173 price point, moving average right here, 174, 173, and then once you do, there's quite a bit of resistance between 175 to 177. More specifically, $176 to $177 price point. Passing that's going to be a big task. And then even if you pass 177, like I stated, I mentioned this in the last video, but just in case, what you're expecting is I think you won't pass this downward trend resistance line, but hopefully everything does pass. But in case if you want to be realistic, you're probably going to get knocked down by this downward moving average, or downward trend resistance line. And if that's the case, you're probably going to, if you do it quickly, you're going to get knocked down at $240, depending on when you meet it though. So like if you meet it here, $234, etc., etc. But even before you get that, between that level that I mentioned, 240, 234, there's a huge amount of resistance between 189 to 226. Like passing 226 is a major task on its own. But again, this stock is completely different though than other stocks. Like it does not follow like typical stuff because it's a short squeeze play and it's extremely volatile. Like literally, if hedge funds decide to cover their shorts at any moment, like this thing could just go up any second, like disregarding all the resistance levels. So just keep that in mind. Anything is possible. Hopefully that happens and breaks through these resistance levels like nothing. But if you think you're going to go to the downside, just a quick update for the downside. Like I stated, expecting it to come down and bounce off these support levels. Again, doesn't guarantee it has to, but hopefully it does. Then you're expecting, if it does it quickly, let me just move my camera down to the side. If it does it quickly, then you're looking at $120 price point. I remember I measured it though, it was 119. And then right about here is 118. And I remember when I measured it specifically, it was 117. So if you want like closer to the exacts, it's 119 for December support level, upward trend support level, and then 117 for September upward trend support level. Again, December, the first one is 119, September is 117. And again, as you move higher, the support levels get better. So if you were to, like, for example, bounce off here on December, you're hopefully bouncing off $127 price point. So it depends on how long you take. Now, all this stuff is forming a triangle. And I think most of the stuff, like if you're expecting to go to the upside, the utmost earliest I think we could go to the upside is roughly about April 19th. But I'm anticipating from when I checked out everything, April 21st would be a good sign. Now, it could be longer because this major triangle right here, so from this December one and the January all-time high right here, by the time they, like, everything meets, it's probably going to be, like, let me see, like, I don't know, wait, like, past, hopefully middle of May, but it would be a lot easier to tell. That's, like, far in advance, like, almost a full month. But I would say we could see some good movement on April 19th and April 21st. Nothing necessarily significant on those dates, just more for the fact that the triangles might meet up at that time. Like, for example, this triangle right here meets on April 19th, but I remember when I checked it out and zoomed in fully, it was April 21st. But either way, so there's that. Now, in terms of short positions, the one thing I want to show is it looks like short interest or short positions is getting reduced, but something's off with it. I don't know. If you saw my past videos, you noticed that the same thing happened where it's saying that 10.7 million shares are being shorted, but I don't know what's going on with this number because this is incorrect, because it's saying number of shares or percentage of shares, I can't even talk. Floated shares that are being shorted, percentage of them is 38.93%, but if you look at number of floated shares available, it's 45.293%. So if you times this number by that number, you get roughly about 20 million shares being shorted. So I don't know, but it is decreasing because as this is March 31st, 2021, so it just recently got updated. But as of March 15th, 2021, or March 12th, something like that, I think it was March 15th, it was at 44% if I remember exactly or correctly. So it is getting decreased. The only significance about that, though, is if you want to know why is that significant, is I wouldn't be concerned too much right now because that's still quite a bit of shares being shorted. It's still insane amount. So I would say no worries right now. But I'd be worried a little bit moving forward. Just keep an eye on it because when we were here before all these spike ups, we were over 100% shorted. Now we're at like 40%. So these massive run-ups, they could still happen, but they're like less likely as we keep going forward. It depends on how the hedge funds decide to unload their shares and cover their short positions and all that stuff. But there's still more run-ups to come, though. That's what I'm trying to say, that there is more coming. The only thing is, though, the magnitude might be not as much, but it all depends, though, because, like, for example, they could have loaded more or shorted more shares. So just keep an eye out on shares being shorted. And the way to do that, just for example, go to Yahoo Finance, not sponsored by them or anything, then type in GameStop or whatever stock you want to look at, click on statistics, and then go down to here and you could check the information. So there's that. Hopefully you found this video like informative. Hopefully you liked it. Hopefully it helped you out overall. If you did like the video overall, drop a like, helps the channel. Thanks, appreciate it. like the way I asked for it, it kind of seemed messed up. But thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. If you do like this video and other stock videos, consider subscribing because I'll be uploading more and more financial videos as well. And if you do have any questions, do not hesitate to ask. I'll try to answer them as soon as possible. And that's pretty much it. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.